Okay, it's a Tuesday morning, but an exciting Tuesday morning because we're at Foster & Partners, where the new plans for a new Manchester United stadium have been unveiled. Can you introduce yourself first of all and your role in this?
Hi, my name is Patrick Campbell. I'm a senior partner at Foster & Partners, and yeah, this is the best Tuesday I've ever had. It's a really exciting day. I'm really excited to tell the next part of this story, which is a huge privilege for us, a huge honour for us to be part of the journey of Manchester United. First of all, with the Carrington training ground that we've been working on for a while now, that will be ready at the end of the summer, and also the master plan. But today we're talking about the stadium itself, which is super exciting.
So this is half of the stadium. Can you, from your perspective, describe to me this and what's at the heart of it?
Cool, really good question. So this all started, the big challenge that we got from Jim Ratcliffe was the idea of generating the finest football stadium in the world. Football first, all about atmosphere, all about that fan experience, all about making this the best stadium in the world to come to. So it's talking about proximity to pitch. Can you see everything that's going on and how closely can you get to that? How can all the fans get together with that fantastic roar to drive on the team to make it a winning stadium, a winning team? So all about acoustics, all about sight lines, all about proximity to pitch, all about feeling connected. The idea of maybe this is the biggest football stadium in Europe.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the biggest football stadium in the world. There are some others that are out there at 150, but how can we drive this to be the finest club football ground in the world?
If we come round to the front of this model, because first of all, I stand in the Stretford End on my season ticket with my brother and my mates. Where would that be?
So Stretford End, so just to orientate you, and we'll come on to the master plan in a minute, but the idea is that Stretford End, the west stand, that will stay in the same position. And so that is, we've been developing that to try and understand how we can make sure it generates the biggest roar, the biggest sense of kind of identity and enclosure. So the idea of making that the biggest cop stand in the UK, and there are some ideas about how we can kind of make sure that is the finest experience. Is it safe standing? Is it seating? All lots of different kind of conversations to have. But we want to have those conversations with the fans. We want to make sure that this is their stadium for them. We're just custodians. We're helping kind of to find form in this stadium. So we really look forward to continuing the conversations we've had. So we've had some amazing conversations.
There has been consultation already, but this is, I guess, another starting point. There will be more consultation.
Exactly, and I think kind of this morning we were hearing from Seb, from Omar, that this is very much the start of the process. Is that these are some ideas about how we can bring forward the finest football stadium in the world, but we've got to do that with the fans and the local communities and all the different stakeholders to make sure that they see it as their club and their stadium.
So this half section of the bowl, I think one of the concerns, or what some sceptics towards a new ground, myself included, when a new build was suggested, was we've seen other clubs move into what I think has become a kind of cliche, a soulless bowl.
Yeah.
But it's true. And as an away fan, you go to those grounds and you think, I would hate United to do that. On the videos and in this model, you can see the steepness. Can you talk us through how do you get that raw feeling with a bit of soul with a new build?
So it's a little bit of everything. It's the sort of the secret recipe in the sense of you've got to make sure first of all that you've got the right orientations of the different stands, so the lower, the middle and the top, trying to make sure that we make it as steep as possible, obviously within kind of current regulations, trying to make sure that it is all about the proximity to pitch. We don't want huge expanses of ground between the touchline, the goal line and the first seat. We want to bring everyone in as close as they possibly can be. We want to make sure the pitch is excellent. So other clubs have done retractable pitch kind of strategies. We're going for a football first. We're not looking for a retractable pitch at the moment. But coming back to your question about the stands, it's about kind of making sure that we've got the right kind of positions in the right locations. So the right amount of hospitality, taking hospitality out of the Stretford End, that's a really important kind of piece. And how can we get that to be this wall of kind of, the Red Army, absolutely kind of, roaring everyone on. but also trying to make sure that we've got the different kind of flexibility of concourses as well. So people who aren't necessarily sitting together can meet up before the game at half-time, at the end of the game. I think that's really important, and that's very much a lesson that we've taken from the fan kind of consultation process. But also, how do we make it feel like it's an evolution of the original? So the idea of all the fan banners, those are really important, to make sure they find a space and they kind of continue that kind of heritage of the stadium. But also then, open questions. We don't know kind of how far we got, the corner player tunnel. Is that something that we should bring across to this new stadium, or should we put it back on the halfway line like it was originally? Yeah. All of these are brilliant things to talk about with the fans.
I'm going to move over to this one while we talk about the stand itself.
And we've got to just take a moment to kind of give a nod to the colleagues who made these. So they've cut out all the individual fans. So it's a painstaking process, but it makes us feel connected to the project. But here, so you've got, this is an older model, so it's not the very, very latest. And this was talking about different configurations of the cop stand and how we can kind of bring that wall of red behind the goal line. How many entrances to the pitch, where they are they on the halfway line or they're in the corner? Coming back to your question, there are other European grounds that are steeper than 35 degrees, and actually I kind of feel those are quite uncomfortable because you really do need to watch your step. You really do need to worry about
We've had a few European aways like that.
Totally.
Villarreal and
so and then there's the evolution. What is this we want to be standing the test of time? So what's the kind of future of stadium capacities? Is it safe standing? Is it so that all the seats get locked up and you can have more people than there are seats in the stadium? Yeah. We don't know the future of kind of regulations. We don't know if licensing is going to change. So we need to build all of that into the kind of the skeleton, the kind of bricks and mortar of the stadium.
That's an interesting point. Is there a chance that the construction of a new United stadium, given the brand of Manchester United and the weight it holds, even within government as well as football and the football industry, is there a chance that the construction of this could affect legislation like licensing, and that United could push for things that fans might want to see changed?
Absolutely.
Such as licensing laws?
Let's use this to work together with all of the licensing regulators, all the experts within the industry to make this the new benchmark. There's no reason why this shouldn't be the finest stadium in the world.
And the stand, so in this case it's got 3 sections. In the most updated design it has 2, is that correct?
Exactly.
So that's different from the new Everton stadium at Bramley Moor Dock. That's different from the Tottenham Hotspur stadium and the older grounds like Borussia Dortmund.
Exactly.
Why
So
why is that?
we haven't fixed the geometry of the bowl yet. What we're looking to do is to try and figure out all the different permutations in terms of proximity to pitch, the rake angle, the ideas of what the blended hospitality kind of strategy might be, but also what creates the most atmospheric bowl. So we're working with acoustic specialists, we're working with seating specialists, we're working with kind of trying to understand all the parameters that go into our sophisticated modelling kind of tools to work through a whole bunch of different scenarios that we can test. We can then test with VR goggles on to make sure how does that seat look? How does that seat look from the top? Where do we want the away fans to be? There are awesome
up in that
exactly
200 metres up.
and those are exactly the conversations that we really want to get into with all the fans, and a lot of the kind of communities, because as I say, it's not our stadium, it's your stadium, and we want to make it the very, very best for you.
So in terms of acoustic, steepness of stand is one thing, and having fans feel close to the pitch is, as a fan, obviously important. You need to feel close to it. Is there also stuff in terms of the roof that grows that noise organically?
So what we've been looking at, as I say, with acoustic specialists, about how much reflection of sound, so you angle it back, and how much absorption that you need. So you've got to be able to not only kind of see other fans around the stadium, but you want to hear the other fans around the stadium. So
Old Trafford's at its best when you can feel that noise like swelling around the ground.
It's just amazing. It's amazing. So looking at that, but also looking at what are the next questions about screen? And I know that's a big kind of subject. Yeah. Do we introduce a screen? What sorts of screens do we have? Are they things to show kind of action replays? Are they things to kind of help to generate atmosphere? Are they things to help kind of generate sponsorship? Or do we not have them? these are lots of different questions that we want to go through.
Let's move next to the concourses. I remember at an early stage of the plans around Regeneration, there was some discussion over feel, and in the fan survey as well. And something as a match-going fan, I sometimes go to newer grounds and everything feels very sleek, and sometimes a little bit too sleek for what we know English football to be. So, in terms of is that something to do with the materials used, and will there be a feel to the concourses that kind of evokes the Old Trafford?
Such a great question. For us, this is about it being the greatest football stadium in the world, but it could only be for Manchester United. So it's got to retain that grit, that identity, that feel, those materials. But there are things that we can improve without totally kind of making it feel different. So the idea of the concourses, I think at Old Trafford, they need some love. So the idea of, can we come up with much more flexible concourses? So you might not be sitting with your mates, but you know you can catch up with them. You know that you can go to the concession that you really want to go to, if there's a prayer room that you need to get to, if there's a disabled loo that you need to get to. So making it a much more kind of friendly space, a much better space in terms of the different fans to get together. But at the same time keeping that soul. So the industrial materiality that we've been talking about, and you can see in some of these images, very much take kind of clues from the existing Old Trafford building.
So brick rather than
steel, We're not looking to make this look like a big shopping mall. This is very much a football stadium.
Okay, let's go over to this larger model. Can you talk through this structure?
Yes.
What does it mean? What's it made out of? And what are the benefits?
So the stadium started from a number of different points. We've talked about the football first, the inside, the bowl, the atmosphere, but it's also doing a huge piece in terms of connecting the communities all the way around it. We know that there's an opportunity to create some amazing covered public spaces that are great for every day as well as match day, and that gives you kind of all weather, all year round kind of protection.
Nice and sunny here, but in the rain it will give some cover.
Well, there's the lovely story about Manchester has everything apart from a beach, so maybe we can create an amazing waterfront along the Bridgewater Canal that becomes a space for everyone, not just for Man United fans. So this is about connecting people together through a network of landscaped and blue spaces, the canal. And what I love about Manchester is you've got all of these different level changes. You've got the bridges, you've got the canals dropping down, and so playing with that to create this really kind of special place that can be used for all sorts of different purposes.
In terms of the size of this, for example, one of the three towers, if I was sitting on this hypothetical canal, how tall would that feel?
So it's deliberately trying to create a local and a global destination. We are blown away by the level of support that Manchester United has around the world. So over 1 billion followers, and so what we want to do, and as Jim mentioned today, is to create a stadium that really reflects that kind of global status, that's underpinned by the beautiful history, the tragedy and the glory of Manchester United. So the idea of creating this global icon that everyone recognises, and that we're talking about the main kind of master being at sort of 200 metres high. Maybe it's visible from 40 kilometres away, which would be amazing.
I like the fact it could be visible from Liverpool. I was
absolutely
enjoyed that.
And the idea that all of it is kind of created really cost effectively and time efficiently. So the idea of the prefabrication, the modular, not only drives the kind of time benefits but also cost benefits. So doing the most with the least. So the idea of a covered roof, but using really kind of lightweight materials. So it's all about creating a cost effective stadium.
One of the things I want to talk about as well is heritage.
Yeah.
So this is very futuristic looking, something people couldn't have even conceived of 100 years ago. There are elements of Old Trafford that must be maintained.
Completely agree. Really important.
In the sight of the fans. Let's rattle through a few of them if possible. The Munich clock, for example. Yeah. What might happen with that?
So we were really kind of honoured and kind of privileged to be at the recent kind of memorial. It's so powerful. It's so powerful and it's so important. It's non-negotiable. that has to play such an important part in the design of how this all comes forward. So we want to work with fans. We want to understand, first of all, what are the important pieces and what's the best way of continuing that beautiful story of kind of the history and making sure that those stories aren't forgotten and that we continue to kind of honour those memories. So I think it's about trying to understand how they could be integrated within the new stadium, how they could be integrated within the new public spaces around the stadium, and how we might even add to them. So we tell new stories, and as Gary was saying in the film, you know, the sort of future on common ground. It's kind of how can we make this even more Manchester United and more about the history and the story that is unique to the club and unlike anyone else.
So those things are very far from set in stone then, but they will be kept.
There is such an important part of it, and a lot of the communication that happened at the beginning of this process was about what are the most important things, and lots of feedback, lots and lots of kind of ideas and conversations about that. And that's what we want to get back to. You know, today's been a great day about talking about the art of the possible, and now what we want to do is to get back into those conversations with the fans, with community groups, to understand really how this should kind of take form in the future.
But there are a couple of bits of this design which have some slightly firmer things in place. So first of all, again, if you could explain, this is what would be the new ground.
Exactly.
Where is Old Trafford now? If you could point out on
Brilliant. Well, just to orientate everyone, so at the top of the page you've got obviously the quays, at the southern end you've got the railway line, you've got Gorse Hill. The idea of trying to make sure that Manchester United can continue to play in Old Trafford throughout this whole process. So at the moment the existing stadium is roughly where my hand is here, coming up the processional route from the cricket ground,
okay.
and also the route up towards Wharfside. So roughly speaking in this location. And what we're looking to do is to locate the new stadium broadly in the middle of kind of the Bridgewater Canal and the railway line just to the west of the existing stadium. And that gives us then an opportunity to create a number of new connections. So recreating the new train station, so the old Trafford train station.
This
Exactly.
shiny looking thing.
And so that then holds the sort of east end of the procession route, so 450 metres, beautiful kind of tree-lined, activated, so lots and lots of restaurants, of bars, of museums, of shops, of hotels, lots of different kind of entertainment ideas along the processional route. That also links up to then coming up from the cricket ground,
okay.
coming down from Wharfside. So this is where kind of everyone, the main arrival, if you like, to the stadium. And that's maybe where we put the Trinity sculpture.
Okay.
So just as it today faces onto and honours the stadium, that's maybe where that Trinity sculpture should be. And then also kind of coming through, we've then got the northern route, which then goes through Wharfside, which is the piece of land that's being developed by Stretford Council, up to the Imperial War Museum and the quayside. So that kind of cultural trail we think is really important. And that comes immediately next to the existing cable factory, which is at the moment not being used, but a beautiful, handsome brick building, which we think could maybe become the fan zone. Yes. A really fantastic covered space that's maybe flexible, it can hold kind of...
Link to the past.
Exactly. Some really nice ideas with new bridges across the Bridgewater Canal. And then the Bridgewater Canal for us becomes a really kind of special piece. At the moment it's kind of forgotten, but it should be beautiful. It should be a place where people walk, where they come to the game, they kind of, you know, it's a running track, it's a route to work. The idea of that Bridgewater Canal then following the arc all the way through to the existing train station, which is over to the west.
Okay.
So all of this land at the moment is the freight land and the club's car parking. And so the idea of that becoming this fantastic opportunity for regeneration in terms of mixed use, so housing, of jobs, of community facilities, and maybe even a football pitch, so that, you know, local kids can play football in and around the stadium.
I'm going to come back to that, but just on the walkway here, so that is going over what is currently the Old Trafford pitch. So that's
really good point. So what we really want to do is to understand how the existing stadium again forms part of the new chapter. So what elements of that? Is it the penalty spot? Is it the halfway line? How can that manifest itself along that processional route? And I think that's a really good kind of story that we want to develop with the fans.
And in terms of a kind of a single route into the ground, I think as a fan who's gone to Wembley for the biggest event, sometimes post-match, because 45,000 people are leaving at once, that can become very congested. So how would something like this prevent that from happening? Is it the fact you've got these other exits, or are there other magic things that architects can do?
So it's trying to come at this from all sorts of different points of view. So we know that at the moment 65% of people come to the game by car. And we know that we've got to kind of figure out how we can kind of address that. Trafford are very keen for kind of the reliance on car journeys to diminish, to make it much more mixed modal, so looking at different forms of public transport. We also want people to be able to walk to the stadium, to cycle to the stadium. We also want people to kind of feel like there are lots of different options. So trams dotted around, new bus links that we can bring in, coach parking, we've got to accommodate park and ride from the Trafford Centre, maybe park and strive has been talked about, but also the new train station, that again unlocks capacity. And then the other part of it is trying to give people the opportunity and the kind of, the plans for arriving a little bit earlier, having something to do, catching up with their mates, maybe having a meal, maybe having a drink. At half time, lots of things going on, and then after the game, just like at the moment, the international suite's being opened at the end of the game as well, to give people a chance to grab a drink together, watch the game, talk about it, all the rest of it.
Might that involve, because there's currently lots of local independent businesses who might have a van here or a cafe there, would that involve them?
Totally. Well, this is the lovely thing about the covered space. So all the way around the stadium, we've got the idea of the largest covered public space in the world. And what we want that to be is a little bit of everything. So it's a space where people can mingle before the game, where people can go to the museum or the fan store, or some of those kind of the street market, the street food, all of those sorts of things. So giving people lots and lots of choice and lots of flexibility. And then if it's pouring with rain, it's also a great place to kind of gather. So this is twice the size of Trafalgar Square around this whole area. So it's an amazing civic kind of piece, not just for Manchester United, but for the whole of Trafford, the whole of Manchester.
Final thing, these, I imagine, are very much not decided because they involve lots and lots of people, but in theory, what would these be? Are they flats? Are they offices? Are they spaces for the local community? What could they be?
Really sort of cool. So overall, this is kind of what people are talking about, the old Trafford Regeneration project. So it could be over 2 million square metres of floor area in terms of development. Now, we don't know exactly how much or what form that will take in terms of the land uses, but what we do know is that there's a real need for jobs, for housing, and really good quality mixed tenure housing, so housing for everyone. The idea of making sure that we've got the right amount of entertainment. So trying to figure out the different character areas. As master planners, we're trying to think about how these might be defined and grouping uses together to give it that sense of animation, activation, the buzz, the dynamic. So the idea of maybe this is the entertainment district, with, as I say, the museum, the mega store, the fan zone, maybe the Manchester United hotel, maybe a bunch of complementary kind of food and beverage, all of those sorts of things, but also maybe a sort of, an interactive kind of COSM kind of thing, an auditorium, which all sorts of different things can happen. Maybe people come here to watch an away game.
Yeah.
It's that kind of attractor. And then the fan zone in the cable factory. And then maybe as we move further to the west, this becomes much more residential led. So delivering proper homes with amazing tree-lined streets, with access to local shops, access to sort of, community infrastructure. So playing fields, paddle courts, running tracks, places to walk your dog. It's all important to make it feel like a real piece of city.
Okay. Are you excited?
I'm so excited. Like I say, it's been a great Tuesday.
Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Cheers.